Alright, so it's Thursday night here on Hearthstone for Noobs channel, and it turns out that we had just enough people on the stream that wanted to play a little tournament, and we actually have some interesting decks coming up, I think, and we see Kenny versus Staxwell in the first match, and look at Kenny. Kenny's got looks like he's got something like a little bit of a Dragon Paladin going here. That's going to be interesting. And seeing Staxwell play Shaman, we can only assume it's Mech Shaman because we know Staxwell plays sort of to the highest standard here. So I think we're gonna find out pretty quickly. See if he drops a Whirling Zaphomatic. It's a Mech Warper, so it's definitely going to be a Mech Shaman. That's pretty much what I was expecting. But with a quick run out, with the Mech Warper and the Clockwork Gnome, I think Kenny just has to respond here with the Annoyatron. Alright, so now is he going to totem, or has he actually got a card he wants to play here? He's got the Mech Warper. He could drop something like a Spider Tank. There's Whirling Zaphomatic number 1. Is it possible he's got 2? Okay, he just goes for the Cogmaster. Well, that's going to be a lot of pressure because, as we all know, the Paladin, A, doesn't have the coin, and B, doesn't have a sword in his hand. So it's going to be really hard for him to remove these things. Could be a big problem. If he has any sort of taunt here, the Paladin is just going to be in a huge amount of trouble because he needs to be able to stop that Whirling Zaphomatic pretty quickly. And there it is, a Annoyatron plus what are we going to see? We got. Why don't you put Whirling? Oh, because he's going to use it to kill the Spider Tank. Okay, pretty sick play here from Staxwell then. Nice that he's kind of stepping out of the normal box. And oh shit, that's Rockbiter Weapon, or as I like to call it, Cockbiter Weapon, because. God, it's just so frustrating when this happens, right? And sympathies for Kenny, but this is a huge start for Staxwell. And he does manage to pull out True Silver. He could Humility the Whirling Zaphomatic, but I don't know. I mean, he could play Spider Tank and Humility. That might be his best option, because then he's only going to take 2 damage from the Whirling Zaphomatic on the next turn instead of 6. I think definitely that's the play. And instead he decides to go for True Silver, just to pick up a bit of health. And, yeah. What we're waiting for now is, does he have a Fel Reaver in his hand, or is this going to be like a pure Mech Shaman without the... Oh my god, look at that board. Pretty sick. So what can Kenny even do about this now? I mean, I just don't think he's got an answer here. And he's got a Humility... It's just not enough. He's going to go up to 9 health here, and that'll do it. That's going to be the first game to Staxwell. In 5 turns with a Shaman, and like we were saying in the stream here on the chat box, when Mech Shaman goes, it definitely goes, and when it doesn't, it can be a little bit frustrating. But it seems like people who are good with the Mech Shaman deck, actually, it goes pretty well most of the time. And there you go, game 1 to Stax, and we'll see what his second deck is. Tonight was kind of an impromptu tournament. Like I said, the guys on the stream wanted me to do this, so we're doing it. But I didn't get any deck lists in. This is all very much, you know, on the players to kind of be sort of above board with everything. And Staxwell and Gibby said tonight that they're going to bring a couple of different decks and show us a couple of different looks at the things that they like to do. So that's going to be fun. And Kenny actually is a pretty strong player, so it will be nice to see if he can pull out a little bit of something in the next game. But I don't even know what these guys are using. I don't even know what classes these guys are using right now. So we're just waiting to see. We're going to have to wait and see what happens when the next game starts. The question is, does Kenny stick with his Paladin for the next game, or does he want to switch over and try and steal a win with something else? I don't even want to guess at what he's going to play. I'm hoping Stax shows us something like a Mage next, but it's quite possible he goes Priest here. Just because they told me they want to play different decks, and I know there's some really interesting Priest decks about right now. I was right. Look at that. I know my players. Staxwell goes Priest, and Kenny goes Mage. So this should be fun. Oh, and it looks like Kenny's playing Mech Mage, so this actually might be a little bit of a better chance for him here. And yeah, as I say in the stream, that first game was pretty quick, so definitely exciting to watch. A little bit of a shame for Kenny; he never really got to get going in there. Kind of hard to play Dragon Corsair when you don't even get a 5 drop out. So there you go. This is a great starting hand for Kenny. Yeah, I don't think he wants to drop any of it because you've got such a nice 1, 2, 3 plus the coin. I mean, you can really do a lot. If he happens to draw into Mech Warper on turn 1 or 2 as well, it could be really good for him. And I'm really definitely interested in seeing how Staxwell plays this priest. I'm pretty glad I called it too. I think that's interesting that that when he decides to deviate from the standard what do you call it, handlock and patron warrior, that we see some really. So like I said, there's priest is starting to crawl up in the meta again, which is with the announcement of the new grand tournament, it could change things just immensely across the board. I was talking about this with some players earlier, and we're just hoping that the new cards and the new Inspire tag and other mechanics and stuff like that is going to slow the game down a little bit and allow some of the more mid-range decks to flourish. But at this point, I'm just excited about seeing some changes. Anyway, so there you go. Staxwell's going to get off to the pretty good pre-start of erasing his opponent's minion, getting a heal onto the Northshire Cleric, and getting a card draw. And that's always a good way to start with a priest. And look at this. Kenny has drawn into Mech Warper. Put a coin out there so we can play a Noyatron. And Staxwell will be able to continue to draw with his Northshire Cleric. But I don't think Kenny's really going to be too bothered about that. Even if Staxwell fills up his hand, unless he's going for some sort of big combo here, which I'm sure that's part of the plan. We do see, like I said, Kenny's got some really good cards in hand, and he's going to have a good chance here to put some pressure on Staxwell. I don't think he should go face here. I think he should definitely kill one of the clerics. And limit Staxwell's ability to draw. Although at this point he would have just filled his hand up, and that would have been about all he needed from the clerics. Now, like I was saying earlier, we have two of our participants tonight, Staxwell and Gibby, are representatives of Team Perfect Curve. They are high-level Hearthstone players that play some of the most well-established archetypes in the game. And if you guys are interested out there in YouTube land, or anybody watching right now, if you're interested in learning more about the game, more about some of the strongest decks in the game, please go check out Perfect Curve. Their instructional videos are on YouTube, and they can definitely teach you a lot about things like Patron Warrior, the mid-range Hunter, Handlock, and just all, like I said, the most well-established archetypes in the game are the things you're going to see from these guys. Alright, that's Shadow Madness, so I think we're just going to go ahead and erase the Mech Warper here. Perhaps he wants to get rid of the, perhaps he wants to get rid of the Snow Chugger just for the freeze effect, but at the same time, I mean, it just really depends on what he feels that, like, sort of Kenny was working with in his hand, and as we can see, he actually doesn't have any mechs. So there you go, he's going to pull that back, and I think I would go Mirror Entity here and kill the Cleric, but it looks like he's just going to throw the Spider Tank right back out. So definitely kill the Cleric. Kill the Cleric. You do not want to let him keep drawing. And instead he goes face. So there you go. Staxwell's hand isn't full, see? So unless he loses like a lot of tempo by healing the Cleric, I think that he's going to continue to draw cards and make sure he can draw into whatever combo I would assume he's trying to pull off here. But we do see a Sludge Belcher, and I think that this is a bit of a shame for Kenny that he didn't play Mirror Entity in that spot. But as we see, he does draw into Tinkertown Technician. Instead, he decides to go for Mirror Entity. And is he going to kill the Sludge Belcher? It looks like he's going to. He also has a ping. You definitely cannot leave the Sludge Belcher alive. You can't leave the Sludge Belcher alive. You have to kill it if you injure it, especially when it's the Priest. Because, well, you can leave it alive against anybody but the Priest, but if you're going to damage it against the Priest, you need to finish it off. Otherwise, it's just going to get healed back up. Okay, so we see the Emperor, although although there's not a great deal in his hand to get that discount on, the Emperor is still pretty much always a good play, and it really depends on if Staxwell has Shadow Word Death, although it's probably going to be something he includes at least one of in this deck. But like I said, I think that knowing the players here, that he's actually geared, the deck is going to be more entirely geared towards a really big combo finish. Having said that, it could just be like a really strong control priest. We're not entirely sure yet, but he hasn't instantly deathed Thorson, so there's a possibility that that's not what's going to happen. We also know that Kenny is playing Mirror Entity, so we're waiting to see what Staxwell plays. He might actually play a minion first, just to see what he has to deal with. I think he's worried about duplicating Thorson, but he's gonna Shrink Meister, so he might Shadow Word Pain. Blade Master. Very interesting. Circle of Healing. Yep, there's that. We're going to draw 2 more cards into Staxwell's hand, and he does cycle through his deck very quickly with this deck. And another draw. Alright, so Thorson remains and the hand gets cheaper, and it looks like Kenny's going to go ahead and just dump his hand here. We see a reversing switch. Is that going to be useful in any way? I suppose he could reverse the injured Blade Master to kill it, but he just doesn't want to give up Thorson here. I think he just feels like he needs to keep that 5 attack board on the present board presence on the board. Having said that, now that he's injured, if Staxwell's holding a Holy Nova, it's going to do a significant amount of damage. He can even clear the Tinkertown Technician with the Blade Master first, and get the heal back on the Blade Master. He might even have Light Bomb, and Light Bomb will take care of everything but. Oh, this could be Holy Nova for sure. So I think he still has to swing in first with the Blade Master into the Tinkertown Technician. Unless he's got Holy Nova plus a 1 mana spell. It's entirely possible. He goes for Shadow. Okay, so now he's got the Shadow Word Death. He's going to go ahead and play that on Emperor Thorson. And we see the duplicate in place does give Kenny actually some a little bit more power to be able to play a couple more 5-drops and continue to keep reducing the cost of his hand. In fact, he actually manages to get a little bit of board parity back here too, and he's going to also be able to ping off the Blade Master, which is going to work out really well for him. So I think he needs to just play Thorson and ping off the Blade Master. I don't think he wants to play a Noyatron because if the Blade Master starts to heal, it's just going to become a huge problem. But instead, he does go with a Noyatron. So did we see both Circle of Healings already from Staxwell? That's the question. I don't think we did. I think we just saw one. He may have another one ready to go here, though. And this is what's going to hurt the most. Like I said, this is why you want to kill the Blade Master. So Cabal Shadow Priest comes out and steals that Noyatron. We see a second Shadow Word Death. And now Kenny really doesn't have a way to protect his last Emperor, so he's going to need to pull a few nice cards out here. I think he definitely, yeah, he's got to ping off this Blade Master. I think he was lucky that it didn't get healed up, and he didn't take like really that much more damage. But here we see Spider Tank, and it's not going to allow him to play Spider Tank, Ping, and Thorson, so he's just going to go ahead and throw the Spider Tank out. We'll see if Staxwell's got a Shadow Word Pain in his hand.
You require my assistance?
What the hell? So he actually managed to Thought Steal Archmage Antonidas, and I think that's just going to be it for Kenny. I think that Staxwell, I mean, has had a pretty strong run out from start to finish, but the Archmage Antonidas Thought Steal has got to be the icing on the cake. So there you go. Of course he's going to get the rest of his minions out here, but we see 5, 9, 10, 11. No, he's not going to play Emperor. We see 11 plus a Fireball is 17. And it makes another Fireball. So there you go. That'll do it. And Staxwell is going to take his first round match versus Kenny. And a little bit of unlucky, couple of unlucky spots there for Kenny, but Staxwell once again asserting his dominance and showing why Team Perfect Curve are such solid players. Well done though to both of you guys, and see everybody else in the next game.